Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for today, Friday, September 28th, 2012, and I'm Darko. The links will be posted in YouTube's video description, so please check those out. So we left off with this article from the 26th, Obama defending false 9/11 narrative and absolves USrael, that's US-Israel pact, of guilt for Middle East chaos and bizarre UN speech, talking about this Innocent of Muslims anti-Islam film that was done by Zionists like 9/11. So it says in a bizarre speech at the United Nations, Obama blamed the recent uptick in the Middle East rage against the U.S. on a silly YouTube trailer for the film Innocence of Muslims. Obama failed to mention that prior to the release of the trailer, multiple and illegal U.S. occupations of the Muslim countries after the false flag September 11 events had already made Muslims angry at the U.S. government. Rage against the godless and evil empires, the way they see it, was brewing way before any talk of an anti-Islam film surfaced in the Middle East. And they tried to blame the ambassador's death on that, and it wasn't. That was a hit job. That was a professional terrorist hit job, and they've now had to admit that. So they're saying that Obama clearly lives in an alternative universe. According to his worldview, Washington's unconditional support for the terrorist state in Israel isn't as big a deal in the Muslim world as the airing of a 12-minute film trailer mocking the Prophet Mohammed. Speaking of which, now there's going to be another Mohammed cartoon from Spain. So more Mohammed cartoons from Spain. How does anyone know? Ask El Jueves. So first, a French satirical magazine publishes cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. Now Spain is joining in. Let's not forget about the actual Israeli subway ad calling them savages and to support Israel. The cover of the latest issue of El Jueves shows a lineup of bearded Middle Eastern men with the headline, But does anyone know what Muhammad looks like, reports the Huffington Post. The editor said that the cover did not really depict Muhammad, but is a parody of the situation we are experiencing. If you can't depict Muhammad, how do you know it is him in the cartoons? She asked. Spain's foreign ministry warned its citizens in Egypt to be careful, but otherwise is monitoring the situation. France's Interior Ministry threatens to expel Muslims. This is what I was talking about. It's kind of interesting that the French police, if that's who they are, have the same uniforms in Sweden. The Swedes have the same little covers, like those little, they call them, I think they're calling them what, piss cutters in the Marines. Almost the same black uniforms too. France's interior, but it's also interesting that you have Swiss guards in the Vatican, so I'm sure there's a reason for all of that. France's Interior Ministry has threatened to expel any Muslim who, as Paris claims, undermines security and poses a threat to the country. So, pretty open-ended, and people think, French think, this is just for Muslims. Just wait till it goes to you, to a regular ethnic French person, just like in the United States. What happens when you become the terrorist? I mean, it's not just tan-colored Muslims, but your average white American or black American, right? Then you could be terrorists. So that's how easy it's set up, the precedence that is. Chancellor Merkel urges tolerance towards Muslims, saying Islam is now part of Germany. Now, this is the thing. The German people, in Germany, they actually recruited Muslims they didn't even recruit them, they volunteered because they knew of the threat of Zionism. So yeah, there was actually Muslims in the Waffen-SS, and the Germans respected their religion, their culture. They had their own priests issued to their divisions and stuff like that. And it's just kind of funny how all of this has how it's come to pass, whereas it's not that the Germans hate them, it's just that they feel that they're losing their culture like other countries, whether it be France, whether it be Sweden, and which we're going to get into. That video I just showed the other day was of that, I believe he was an Italian priest, and he was talking about how the globalists are basically exporting Islam and Muslims into these European countries. It's a culture clash, right? It's pretty obvious it's a divide and conquer strategy, but what he said in that video towards the end was that he's like, have you ever been to London? He's like, because I was there for a few months, and be honest with you, it was hard to actually find an ethnic British person there. Most of them were wearing turbans and stuff, or Indians or whatever. This is done purposely, and the people in England know this, and other countries in Europe. They know this. Even in the United States, they do the same thing. This is to undermine the structure of their society. so that they can control them. Blast targets Jewish community in Sweden. Now, this is pretty interesting because I saw this article coming from the Jewish Times, September 24th, 2012. In Sweden, the kippa becomes a symbol of defiance. Rallies and solidarity actions are having a marked impact, notably in Malmo, a hotspot of anti-Semitism, which I thought was funny because my ancestors are supposedly from Malmo. And it says here, across Scandinavia, the kippa is becoming a symbol of Jewish defiance. On Sunday, 70 Danish Jews took a double-decker bus from Copenhagen on a 10-mile bridge across the Strait of Öresund in the Baltic Sea to go to Malmo in a show of solidarity with the embattled Jews of that Swedish city. Last December, a small group of Malmo Jews violated security protocol by keeping on their kippah, on the street after attending the synagogue, according to this individual, a spokesman for Malmo's 700 or so Jews, and then made a regular habit of it every few weeks. But in Scandinavia, where the Jewish communities of Denmark, Sweden, Norway are relatively tiny and used to keeping a low profile, the shift to public demonstrations against anti-Semitism marks a turning point. This is the thing that I see, guys. I've mentioned this before. Anti-Semitism is a result of pro-Zionism, of Zionism. So this is the thing. By doing this, they used to keep a low profile because they were a small minority. Then they're going to go and shift to public demonstrations, and that is pure Zionism right there. To say, well, we're a tiny minority, but we have all the money, we have all the power of the votes, and we're just going to say, hey, we're here to stay. So they go in and they say they attributed the change in Malmo to a slow buildup of frustration since 2009 when Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza sparked anti-Israel and anti-Semitic, they're not saying it, anti-Zionist, right? Because Zionism doesn't exist into the public mainstream demonstrations in the city, leaving Jews with the feeling that they were under threat and without sufficient protection from the authorities. It says here some 50 to 100 anti-Semitic incidences occur here annually according to the police and community statistics. Many of the perpetrators are first and second generation Muslim immigrants who make up 30 to 40% of Malmo's population. 30 to 40%. So here we go. Making matters worse, Malmo mayor has advised Jews who want to be safe in Malmo to reject Zionism. The mayor said this. Though he has condemned anti-Semitism, he says he called Zionism a form of extremism comparable with anti-Semitism, saying that the Jewish community had been infiltrated by anti-Muslim agents, as Zionists, and denied that Muslims perpetrated the attacks on Malmo Jews.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough. And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran. Which leads me to conclude that if, in fact, compromise is not coming, that the traditional way of America gets to war is what would be best for U.S. interests. Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor. Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode. Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall we had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode. We didn't go to war with Spain until until the Maine exploded. And may I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack. So if, in fact, the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it would be best if somebody else started the war. One can combine other means of pressure with sanctions. I mentioned that explosion on August 17th. We could step up the pressure. I mean, look, people, Iranian submarines periodically go down. Someday one of them might not come up. Who would know why? We can do a variety of things if we wish to increase the pressure. I'm not advocating that, but I'm just suggesting that this is not a either-or proposition. It's just sanctions has to succeed or other things. We are in the game of using covert means against the Iranians. We could get nastier at that.
So that video right there was basically of what? A false flag. That's what they were talking about. a false flag. And this is where it came from. It's supposedly an Israeli lobbyist, the Washington Institute, improving the quality of the U.S. Middle East policy. Their actions, or ideas, action, and impact. They got a little warship there with a bomb going off next to it, right? But analyst says second Zionist 9/11 in the making for war with Iran. The Washington Institute for Near East Policy is overtly plotting another 9/11 style mass murder of Americans to justify military aggression against Iran. So this is going off what we just saw. Political columnist Kevin Barrett says WINEP, like AIPAC, is a criminal organization, a viper's nest of unregistered agents of a foreign power, Israel, even if they were not advocating mass murder and high treason and calling for the silencing of opposition to 9/11 coup d'etat that they and or their fellow travelers helped orchestrate, they should all be arrested and sent to prison. Fellow travelers, I guess it's a homage or to Freemasons. The next wave of U.S. robotic war is drones on their own. U.S. military's current fleet of drones will soon be overtaken by a new wave of robots that will be faster, stealthier, smarter, and operating virtually without any human intervention, which is exactly what they want. I've been saying this for, 2 years now, or 3 years now. It's all about getting rid of the human element. Meanwhile, up to £2 billion are going to be spent on UK deadly drones, as the flying devices are known for killing civilians in current US-led invasions. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security is looking for more than a few good drones. A source is from Network World, and it's saying the U.S. Department of Homeland Security this week issued a call for unmanned system makers to participate in a program that will ultimately determine their safety and performance for use in first responder, law enforcement, to keep you safe, to keep you healthy, and border security, because they care so much about your borders as immigrants flow over them. But in a twist that will certainly raise some eyebrows, the program's results of the ironically named program, the Robotic Aircraft for Public Safety, will remain unavailable to the public, which, considering how involved the actual public may be with these drones, is, shall we say, unfortunate. So this is no wonder that, a third of the public fear police use of drones. But remember, I covered this before. The police are going to have a drone code of conduct, so that should help you sleep better at night. More than a third of Americans worry their privacy will suffer. They're going to be suffering if you get fucking drone strike with a laser in the middle of the night. If drones like those used to spy on U.S. enemies, no, they're killing people. They're not even enemies of me or you. They didn't do anything to me. Some farmer, some newlywed couple. I have no beef with them. They're killing them. They're not just spying on them. So overseas has become the latest police tool for tracking suspected criminals at home, i.e. tax evaders. Because they're revenue collectors. That's what police do. They collect revenue for the state. And also in Germany, Big Brother in German skies says despite their many benefits, the murky legal environment has many worried that drones could be used for unlawful purposes. And also there's 64 drone bases on American soil. That includes 12 locations housing Predator and Reaper unmanned aerial vehicles which can be armed. Alleged U.S. spy crucified in Yemen. This is insane. The victim was accused of directing U.S. drones targeting terrorists, and there's his picture. And first of 3 military hybrid airships delivered and flying. This is, of course, these spy blimps, lighter than air. There's a video, you can go and check for them. Precision agriculture using military technology, drones. Drones are military aircraft being used for killing people every day. But it says growing field of precision in agriculture. These robots allow farmers to detect changes in water, plant health, and pesticide dispersal in their fields. Remember, I've mentioned this, dude. I have this vision of barbed wire fences around GMO fucking corn, Monsanto type, big, huge farms, and having drones secure them, shooting people. Because if people are desperate enough to go dumpster diving and eating trash, and then in Spain? They're putting locks on the trash so you can't do that. Just imagine people, when they're hungry and desperate enough in Mad Max times, they will be trying to get across those fences to eat that GMO. Which is why they're going to build thousands of homes on the green belt, says think tank funded by new planning minister. And who do you think these are going to go to? These nice big open lands. It's going to go towards the rich, towards the super elites. They're going to have their own security and special forces attached to them. Remember the private cities in Honduras? A human rights lawyer has been murdered. He had helped prepare motions declaring the private cities unconstitutional, you see? The human rights lawyer had long complained about death threats, including in documents filed last year seeking protection from a powerful billionaire landowner. Do you think he pays taxes? Do you think he's the super rich like a regular millionaire? Thank you.